Welcome, traveler. You've arrived at Snooze Scholar, where knowledge is not rushed and thoughts are allowed to unfold slowly, like ripples across still water. Tonight, we're not venturing into distant galaxies or forgotten civilizations. Tonight, the journey is inward, quiet, personal, and deeply human. Because nestled beneath your thoughts, behind your habits, and beneath every word you speak, is memory. Memory is more than a record of the past. It is the stitching of your identity, the shape of your story. Every feeling you've felt, every face you've known, every mistake you've carried, and lesson you've learned, all of it lives there. Not frozen, not flawless, but living, changing, evolving. And just like you, it's imperfect. Some memories stay vivid forever, sharp as a photograph, warm as a fire. Others slip away quietly, dissolving without warning. And some never happened at all, at least not the way we think they did. Memory is not a perfect mirror. It is a storyteller. And like all storytellers, it chooses its details. It edits. It forgets. It rewrites. The past we carry is not fixed. It's filtered through emotion, language, time, and imagination. And still, it defines us. It decides how we see the world, how we see ourselves. It reminds us of who we were and who we are becoming. Tonight, we'll explore this strange and beautiful process. We'll learn how memories are formed, how they fade, and why some cling to us while others vanish. We'll visit the science behind forgetting, the emotional landscapes that shape what we hold on to, and the quiet spaces where memory and identity meet. There is no need to focus, no need to recall anything on purpose. Let your eyes close and let your breath find its rhythm. You don't have to remember everything. That's the beauty of being human. You remember what matters, even if you don't always know why. And sometimes, the forgetting is part of the healing. You are safe here. And whatever you carry, whatever you've forgotten or longed to remember, it's all welcome. So drift with me now into the folds of the mind, where memory lives like light trapped in a jar. This is the story of remembering and the quiet mystery of forgetting. Memory begins not with understanding, but with sensation. A sound, a shape, a smell. Something enters your awareness, and your brain quietly decides whether to hold on to it or let it pass. Most moments drift by like clouds, unrecorded, unremarkable. But a few are captured. This process begins with encoding, the brain's way of translating experience into patterns of neural activity. What you see, hear, feel, and think gets converted into signals that ripple through networks of neurons. If the moment is meaningful, if it's tied to strong emotion, repetition, or attention, it's more likely to be marked for storage. But the memory isn't saved like a file on a shelf. There's no central vault, no single storage room in the brain. Instead, memories are scattered, stitched across multiple regions. The smell of a place might be stored in one area, the emotion in another, the words you heard, somewhere else entirely. Memory is not a recording. It's a reconstruction. After encoding comes storage, the quiet act of keeping that memory alive over time. For short-term memories, this might last seconds or minutes. A phone number, a stranger's name. But for memories to last longer, hours, days, years, they must be consolidated. This happens largely during sleep. As you rest, your brain replays patterns of activity from the day, reinforcing important experiences, pruning away the noise. Like a gardener tending to the roots of thought, sleep deepens the grooves of memory, helping them settle into long-term form. Then comes retrieval, the act of remembering. A memory is pulled forward, reassembled from scattered parts. But here's the twist. Every time you remember something, you change it. The act of recalling reactivates the network. And that network is influenced by your current mood, context, and understanding. A memory isn't just pulled from storage. It's rewritten as it's retrieved. This is why memory is so deeply human. It's not a machine. It's alive. It grows with you, adapts with you, and sometimes it protects you, softening edges, blurring details, letting go of things too heavy to hold. You might think of memory as the architecture of your inner world, made of neurons, yes, but also emotion, meaning, time, and mystery. It shapes who you are, not because it's perfect, but because it's personal. In our next chapter, we'll explore the two great kinds of memory, short-term and long-term, how they differ, how they connect, and how both are essential to the way you live, learn, and remember. But for now, let this be enough. You don't need to remember everything. You only need to rest. Some memories vanish almost as soon as they arrive. A glance, a sentence, a thought you meant to keep, but slipped through the cracks. Others linger for decades. A childhood smell, a song that brings tears, the exact light of a long ago afternoon. Why do some things stay with us, and others fade like mist? To answer that, we need to understand how memory is divided, not by importance, but by time. Short-term memory is like a mental notepad. Small, temporary, and constantly overwritten. It holds what you need in the moment, a phone number, a phrase mid-conversation, directions on a walk. It operates in seconds, maybe minutes, and has room for only a handful of items at once. You can think of it like juggling. The brain can keep a few things in the air, but eventually something drops. Unless you rehearse it, repeat it, connect it to something meaningful. That's when the memory might shift from short-term holding into long-term keeping. Long-term memory, by contrast, is vast. It holds the stories of your life, your name, your home, your beliefs, your routines. It's not just one system. It includes explicit memory, things you can describe, like facts or events, and implicit memory, things you've learned but no longer think about. How to ride a bike, how to tie your shoes, how to speak without planning every word. While short-term memory is fragile and narrow, long-term memory is flexible and layered. Some memories are semantic, stripped of emotion like trivia or definitions. Others are episodic, soaked in feeling, tied to a place, a face, a moment in time. These are the memories that feel like dreams when they return. Vivid, strange, sometimes overwhelming. And then there are the memories your body holds. Reflexes, habits, reactions. Rooted so deeply, you don't even think to call them memory. What's beautiful is how the two systems work together. Short-term memory is the doorway. Long-term memory is the house. Without short-term, we'd lose the thread of a sentence. Without long-term, we'd lose the story of our lives. But neither is perfect. Short-term slips constantly. Long-term can warp, fade, or even disappear entirely. Still, something always remains. A feeling, a fragment, a trace. In the next chapter, we'll explore how emotion shapes what stays, how love, fear, joy, and trauma act like anchors, pulling some memories deep into us and letting others drift away. But for now, let your thoughts quiet. Let go of what doesn't need holding. Your brain knows what to keep. Not all memories are created equally. Some fade within hours. Others burn themselves into your mind after a single moment. A first kiss, a sudden loss, a look you'll never forget. These are not memories stored by logic. They are kept by feeling. Emotion is the brain's highlighter. When something matters deeply, when it stirs your heart or threatens your safety, the brain takes notice. It releases chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol. It flags the moment. Remember this. Because in the ancient code of survival, what hurts or helps must not be forgotten. That's why trauma stays so vivid. It's not because the mind is broken. It's because the mind is working, trying to protect, trying to prepare, trying to learn from pain, even when it no longer serves you. But not all emotional memory is sharp. Some feelings are gentle. A familiar smell that brings a wave of peace. A certain song that unlocks a quiet joy you can't explain. The feeling of being safe in someone's arms. Long gone, but still alive in your chest. These memories are not tied to facts. They're tied to states of being. Moments when you felt most like yourself, or most changed by the world around you. The amygdala, deep in the brain, plays a key role in this process. It helps tag emotional events as significant, sending a signal to the hippocampus, which builds the structure of the memory itself. This emotional tagging system is powerful. It's why we remember how something felt more than what was said. It's why we forget the details, but remember the weight. And it's why stories matter, because stories carry emotion, and emotion, in turn, carries memory. But there's a strange twist. Emotion can also distort memory. Fear can sharpen or blur. Love can rewrite. Grief can turn joy into longing. And nostalgia can make the past feel golden, even when it wasn't. Emotion doesn't just preserve memory, it colors it. And those colors change as we grow. What once hurt might now comfort. What once felt perfect might now ache. Memory is not fixed. It breathes. In the next chapter, we'll explore a curious consequence of this fluidity, how the mind can invent or misremember entirely. false memories, imagined moments, and the haunting question, did that really happen? But for now, rest with the feelings you've known. Not all memories speak in words. Some simply sit with you, like old friends who don't need to explain themselves. Memory feels solid, personal, true, a moment recalled with vividness. The light, the words, the feeling in your chest. But memory is not a recording, it's a reconstruction. And the mind, with all its beauty and fragility, can be wrong, confidently. False memories aren't just gaps, they're stories built from pieces, real or imagined, stitched together so smoothly we don't know we invented them. Sometimes it's small. A word remembered wrong, a face placed in the wrong room, a childhood scene altered ever so slightly, enough to shift meaning. But sometimes it's big. People have confessed to crimes they didn't commit because their minds, under pressure, created false images. In studies, researchers have implanted entire fake memories of getting lost as a child or riding in a hot air balloon that never existed. And the person remembers, not vaguely, but with confidence. Why does this happen? Because memory is never just a playback. It's a product of imagination, suggestion, and belief. Each time we recall something, we open the file and unknowingly edit it. We fill in gaps with what makes sense, with emotion, with context, sometimes with what others tell us happened, and once rewritten, the memory feels real. Even dreams can slip into memories folders. A strange scene from sleep may blur into something we think actually occurred. The line between imagined and remembered is thinner than we want to believe. But this isn't failure. It's a function of a mind that's always trying to make meaning, to keep your story whole, to keep the past coherent, even if it wasn't. That's why memory feels reliable. It has to, even when it's not. And yet, false doesn't always mean useless. A false memory can still reveal something true about how we felt, about what we feared, about what we needed to remember in order to feel safe or sane or seen. Memory, after all, is not just about facts. It's about self. In our next chapter, we'll step into dreams and see how memory spills over into sleep, how forgotten things return, how time bends, and how the dream world becomes a mirror for the things we remember and the things we've buried. But for now, breathe gently. You don't need perfect recall. You only need to rest. And let the mind do what it does best, turn fragments into feeling. Each night, as you slip into sleep, your mind begins a quiet ritual, one that doesn't just rest the body, but rearranges the past. Dreams are often strange, unpredictable, full of symbols, faces, places, some familiar, some impossible. But behind their surreal logic is something very real. your brain sorting memory. While you sleep, your mind moves through stages, from light dozing to deep, slow wave rest, and then into REM sleep, when the eyes twitch and dreams begin to bloom. In this stage, the brain is almost as active as it is when awake, except now there's no input from the outside world, only fragments from within, memories, feelings, ideas, unstructured, unspoken, begin to mix. The brain replays moments from the day, connects them to older memories, and sometimes brings forward thoughts you didn't even know were waiting. It's not random, it's processing. Dreams allow the brain to rehearse, to reframe, to release, to experiment with old ideas in new combinations, to file away what matters and discard what doesn't. This is why dreams often feel like echoes, soft distortions of real events, a conversation you almost had, a place you once visited, now rearranged, a person you've forgotten or never met, who speaks with perfect familiarity. Dreams and memory are deeply linked. People who are deprived of REM sleep struggle to retain information. Those who suffer trauma often relive it in dreams. And sometimes, in deep dreaming, we resolve things. Emotional puzzles our waking minds couldn't quite put together. Then there are lucid dreams. When you become aware you're dreaming, here, memory becomes active. You recognize the unreality and in doing so, choose how to move through it. A strange blend of imagination and control, like opening the back door to your own subconscious. But not all dreams are comforting. Some are fractured, some are dark. Nightmares are often the brain's attempt to rehearse danger, to simulate threat, to prepare, to express fear we haven't fully faced. And though they may shake us, they serve a purpose, to release what cannot be spoken by day. So much of memory hides in dreams. Long-lost experiences return. New emotions take shape. And sometimes you wake with a feeling you can't explain. A message, maybe, from some deeper place within. In the next chapter, we'll explore how memory and identity are intertwined, how the things we remember shape who we believe we are, and what happens when memory fades. But for now, rest in the drifting space between waking and dreaming. Let the echoes rise and fall, and know that even when you forget, something inside you always remembers. Who are you? Most would answer with a name, a job, a role. But beneath all of that, beneath the labels and layers, there is something quieter, a story. You are the story you tell yourself, and that story is built from memory. The way you walk, the things you fear, the language you speak, the people you love, they all trace back to moments you've carried, consciously or not. Memory is not just what you have, it's what you are. From childhood, your brain begins weaving a thread, connecting experiences, reactions, choices. You look back and say, That was me. And without realizing it, you build an identity stitched from what you remember. But what happens when memory fades? In conditions like Alzheimer's, identity begins to unravel. Not just facts, but the emotional landmarks that tell a person who they are. A mother forgets her child. A musician forgets the piano. A person forgets themselves. It is one of the most heartbreaking truths of being human, that our sense of self can be so fragile, so dependent on a system we do not fully control. But even here, something beautiful remains. Because while memory fades, emotion often lingers. A hand still knows how to hold another. A face still brings comfort, even if the name is gone. A song still stirs something inside. A shape of joy, even when the words have vanished. Memory is not just data, it's feeling, it's rhythm, it's presence. And even when memory breaks, the essence of self often flickers beneath the surface, like light behind fog, dimmed but still burning. On the other side of this is another truth, that we change. Even when memory remains intact, we revise our story constantly. We look back at childhood with new eyes. We reinterpret old moments with present wisdom, and in doing so, we reshape identity again and again. You are not who you were 5 years ago or 5 days ago. Memory updates. And so does you. This means your identity is not fixed. It's fluid. It grows. And just as you forget certain things, you are always learning who you are now. In our next chapter, we'll talk about forgetting. Not as failure, but as function. Why the brain lets go. Why that's necessary. And how forgetting makes room for something just as important as remembering. But for now, lie still. Let the story you carry soften. You don't need to hold every piece of who you were to fully be who you are. We speak of forgetting like it's a failure. We say we lost something, that a thought slipped away, that we're growing forgetful, as if memory were a bag with holes in it. But forgetting isn't failure, it's function. The human brain encounters thousands of moments each day. Sights, sounds, words, choices. If it tried to keep them all, you'd be overwhelmed, stuck in a loop of infinite detail, never able to decide what matters. So the mind lets go. It sifts. It trims the excess. It makes space. This is what forgetting is. A form of mental housekeeping. A quiet sorting system that clears the clutter so the story of your life doesn't get drowned in noise. You forget what time you brushed your teeth last Tuesday. You forget the number on a license plate you saw for 1 second. Not because you're broken, because you're built to prioritize meaning over minutia. Even emotional forgetting has its place. Grief dulls, old wounds fade, arguments lose their sharpness. Not because they didn't matter, but because the mind knows when to stop reliving something it cannot change. And sometimes, we forget to protect ourselves. Repression is the mind's way of hiding what's too painful. It's not perfect. Sometimes it leaks, but often it buys us time until we're ready to process what we once couldn't face. And then there's the softest kind of forgetting, the one we hardly notice, like forgetting the precise sound of someone's voice, but remembering the way they made you feel. That kind of forgetting isn't a loss. It's a transformation. The details fade, and in their place, a feeling remains. Lighter, simpler, sometimes more beautiful. The mind is not meant to be a museum. It is a river, flowing, shifting, letting go, so it can keep moving. In the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when memory breaks completely, in the form of amnesia and degenerative conditions, what we lose and what somehow remains. But for now, breathe out. Let your shoulders soften, and trust that it's okay to forget. It's not weakness, it's grace. But disappears entirely? What happens when the thread of your story is cut? Not by time, but by trauma, injury, or illness? This is the mystery of amnesia, a condition that does not erase the self, but rearranges it so deeply that even the person living inside it feels unfamiliar. There are two main kinds. Retrograde amnesia is the loss of memories formed before the event. A person might forget years, even decades, of who they were. Birthdays, faces, the sound of their own laughter. Gone. And yet they may still remember how to speak, how to walk, how to make tea. Because those memories live elsewhere, deeper, automatic, untouched. Then there's anterograde amnesia, the inability to form new memories. The person wakes each day as if the world has reset. They meet the same people, have the same conversations, and forget them again. It's not just forgetfulness. It's a collapse of continuity, a life lived in fragments. Some forms are temporary. A head injury, a seizure, a brief chemical imbalance. Others, like Alzheimer's disease, unfold slowly. Not just erasing memory, but reshaping personality itself. And yet, even in these cases, something persists. Emotion, touch, music, rhythm. A person may forget their own name, but still smile at a familiar melody. Still reach for the hand of someone they don't recall, but somehow trust. It reminds us that identity isn't just memory, it's presence, it's connection, it's the unspoken things we carry in our bodies. Even when the mind lets go, amnesia teaches us that memory is fragile, but also layered, that we are not just the facts we hold, but the feelings we return to. In our final chapter, we'll explore the gift that memory gives us, not just in remembering the past, but in imagining the future. Because memory isn't just looking backward, it's the foundation of hope. We think of memory as something that pulls us backward, a rewind button, a personal archive. But memory does more than store the past. It builds the future. When you imagine what might happen, you're using memory. When you plan, predict, prepare, you're not just thinking, you're remembering forward. This is called prospective memory. The ability to envision something that hasn't yet occurred and plant it like a flag in your mental landscape. It's how you remember to pick up groceries tomorrow, how you imagine an important conversation before it happens, how you dream of the life you're working toward. Every vision of the future is stitched from fragments of the past. Your hopes are echoes of what you've known. Your goals, shaped by what you've done. Even your fears, they're made of memories projected into the space ahead. Without memory, the future becomes a blank page. No context, no consequence, no way to move forward with intention. It's memory that gives meaning to time. It's what lets us grow, not just by surviving, but by reflecting, adjusting, choosing. And so, the mind becomes a kind of time machine, not just to revisit, but to rewrite, to move forward with wisdom instead of instinct. This is why storytelling is so powerful, why we keep memories alive, even the painful ones. Because they guide us. They remind us of what we've survived, what we've learned, and what we're still becoming. So as you drift now into rest, know that your mind is still at work, sorting, softening, stitching together not just a record, but a road. Memory is not just the past. It's the quiet scaffolding of your future. It is the reason you know who you are, and the reason you believe you can change.